Next on the news, a new year with the same coronavirus concerns, mandates and masks, schools back in session.
Experts say the pandemic has sent kids into a mental health crisis, but one Diocese of Brooklyn school is caring for the whole child with a brand new wellness center. I'm Jessica Easthope. That story is ahead.
And New York City's new mayor vowing to keep schools open. But when it comes to non-citizens voting, Eric Adams isn't so sure. Plus this.
I think I'm getting too accustomed to natural disasters.
Residents were hoping for a better 2022, but instead another tornado devastates Kentucky. And the Pope's message for the new year, one of his strongest yet: stop violence against women. I'm Christine Persichetti. Currents News starts right now. Studies show during the pandemic, kids have been more stressed than ever before. In hospitals, mental health crisis visits and even suicide attempts among kids are increasingly common. But one school in the Diocese of Brooklyn is tackling pandemic burnout in a holistic way. And as Jessica Easthope reports from Astoria, it's not just students that can get help.
Sticking to the table.
Right, and then you do your exercise on the yoga mats.
For these third graders at Immaculate Conception Catholic Academy in Astoria, it's their first time seeing and touching a yoga mat.
Feels like foam.
Here in their brand new wellness center, they're going to learn how that yoga mat can keep them healthy.
Why is exercise healthy?
But the $30,000 facility paid for by the Diocese of Brooklyn and donations will be for more than just yoga. The school is rolling out programs on faith formation, healthy cooking, nutrition, and even had one on dental hygiene.
She was talking about to brush your teeth like for 2 minutes.
What did you get?
Over the last nearly 2 years, studies have shown kids are feeling the effects of the pandemic. Hospitals have seen more mental health emergencies among kids. The American Academy of Pediatrics found emergency room visits for children in a mental health crisis rose by 24% for kids ages 5 to 11 and 31% for kids ages 12 to 17.
A lot of kids are under a lot of stress. And if we could offer them activities which can relieve that stress.
The best part, it's not just for students. Teachers and even parents can participate in wellness programs too.
If we want our children to be well educated, well informed, we need the parents to be part of that.
Thank you.
Their feet can't reach the floor, but Brother Joseph Rocco says knowing how to be healthy is the first step to reaching their full potential.
It's cool because I like how we get to learn new stuff to keep you healthy and make your parents happy.
Yes, do the pose.
The center was created to be a place where kids can find their center and stay well, mind, body, and spirit. In Astoria, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
As Jessica mentioned, now that kids are back in school with COVID still looming, a healthy mind and body are more important than ever. And New York City's new mayor agrees.
Breathe in deeply 3 times.
On one of his first stops as mayor, Eric Adams visited a public school in the Bronx and led meditation exercises there. He says he does these breathing techniques himself, all in an effort to curb the ongoing coronavirus anxiety everyone is feeling. Still, Adams is vowing that schools will remain open. On Monday, nearly 1 million children and 75,000 teachers returned to New York City classrooms. The mayor doesn't believe we can continue to shut the city down every time a new variant comes up.
How y'all doing?
The Big Apple's new mayor on the job Monday morning, greeting students outside of a public school in the Bronx. City schools are open despite the surge in COVID-19 cases, and Mayor Eric Adams says there's a reason for that.
The safest place for our children is in a school building. And we are going to keep our schools open and ensure that our children are safe in a safe environment.
One way to do that is through testing. 1.5 million test kits were delivered to schools over the weekend. Public schools are doubling the amount of weekly testing. Both vaccinated and unvaccinated students will now be tested. Previously, just 10% of unvaccinated students were tested. The city is also changing its rules to limit quarantine. Instead of an entire classroom shifting to remote learning when one or more students test positive, All students in the class will be given rapid at-home tests. Those who test negative and are asymptomatic will be allowed to return the day after their first negative test. Students will then be given a second at-home test within 7 days of their exposure. The Department of Education is also monitoring staff numbers and has substitutes ready in case outbreaks occur.
We're not in a good place. I'm going to be really honest with you. This is the winter surge we predicted. We know that particularly after families gathered December 25th over that weekend, another weekend holiday we just completed with New Year's, there's a lot of human interaction. And what happens when humans gather? They spread the virus.
New York's governor says she expects it to get worse before it gets better, but Mayor Adams is taking a more optimistic approach.
New Yorkers, let's stop beating up on each other. We're getting it done. We're getting it done. And so, yes, this is a period. COVID is spiking. Let's go through this spike. It's going to dissipate, and we're going to turn this city around in the process. So your question, your anxiety, we're all feeling it. We're all feeling it. But we're getting through it.
Governor Hochul says hospitalizations across the state are up by more than 9,500. Now she wants to find out how many of those admissions are due to COVID. To ring in the new year, New York shattered its daily COVID record with more than 85,000 new cases. That's more than 20% of people testing positive. The trend has yet to show any signs of slowing, and with at-home tests available to those who could find them, the true total of positive cases can't be known. And we are learning more about those at-home tests. Some aren't as reliable as we once hoped. According to a revised report from the CDC, Abbott's Binax Now antigen test, one of the tests handed out to New York City residents, is the most conclusive when you are actually feeling sick. If you have COVID-19 and have symptoms, the test will be wrong 35.8% of the time. If you have COVID-19 and are asymptomatic, the test will be wrong 64.25% of the time. In the meantime, the Food and Drug Administration has now authorized COVID vaccine boosters for kids 12 to 15 years old. The go-ahead for the Pfizer vaccine gives an additional 17 million people the chance to receive a booster. The agency also shortened the time between doses down from 6 months to 5. The CDC could still weigh in with their recommendations before the changes go into effect. COVID concerns are just a few of the issues facing New York City's new mayor. Mayor Adams is also voicing his concern over a controversial piece of legislation that passed the city council right before he took office. The bill allows non-citizens with green cards to vote in local elections. That's more than 800,000 legal residents. During his first full day in office, he told reporters in Queens that he would look at the bill, calling portions of it problematic, and vowed to make a decision about what to do in the coming days. He said he is specifically concerned about granting the right to vote after they live in the city for 30 days. And constitutional issues are looming large at the national level as the Supreme Court plans a busy docket for 2022. Many Catholics concerned about abortion rulings that are expected later this year. The High Court will be looking at 2 cases involving abortion laws in Texas and Mississippi. The Texas law bans most abortions after 6 weeks, while in Mississippi, abortion would be illegal after 15 weeks of pregnancy. That law has the potential to overturn or severely curtail the court's 1973 Roe v. Wade decision. Also in the nation's capital, meat is on the menu at the White House. The Biden administration announcing Monday that it will allocate $1 billion to expand independent beef, pork, and chicken processing businesses. The announcement comes as the president meets with independent farmers and ranchers from across the country to discuss how the White House can create a fairer and more competitive supply chain for meat products. With a winter storm making its way across the East Coast and a growing number of Omicron cases, the new year picked up right where the old one left off, with lots of frustration. It's a feeling many air travelers are experiencing right now. On Sunday alone, over 4,000 flights were canceled worldwide. As Daryl Forges reports, between COVID surges and the hazardous weather, U.S. airlines are not having a happy new year.
A wintry mess affecting millions.
The roads are really just slushy. They're not as icy as we were expecting, but I do have a sneaky suspicion tonight it's going to get pretty bad.
The snow falling as far south as the Florida Panhandle.
It's snowing.
Some areas in the Northeast could see between 4 to 8 inches of snow. In Washington, D.C., snow shutting down the federal government.
Crews have been out in the district since midnight, focused on salting and plowing roads.
Hundreds of thousands are without power. The heavy snow leading to school closures and even some COVID testing sites to temporarily close.
It's just, kind of a nightmare.
The storm, mixed with staff shortages due to the Omicron variant, causing major travel disruptions. According to FlightAware, more than 2,700 flights canceled nationwide on Monday. Major flight delays in Washington, Chicago, and Atlanta. Some travelers waiting for days to catch a flight home.
I tried to leave on Thursday, and then they canceled it, and then we tried to reschedule for Saturday night, and they rescheduled it again or canceled it. And then today, and they canceled it on the way to the airport.
Daryl Forges, Currents News.
On the first Sunday of the new year, Pope Francis welcomed pilgrims to St. Peter's Square, urging the faithful to welcome Jesus into their lives. The Holy Father invoked the image of Jesus in the manger, encouraging people not to be afraid of allowing him to visit your heart. He also spoke about the problems facing society and the church.
E raccontiamogli senza paura anche I problemi sociali, I problemi ecclesiali del nostro tempo, anche I problemi personali, anche I più brutti. Dio ama abitare lì, la nostra stalla.
Pope Francis went on to offer a simple prayer to those suffering personal hardships, saying it's a way of staying close to God. The Holy Father also celebrated his first Mass in St. Peter's Basilica for the Feast of Mary, which coincided with the World Day of Peace. Francis called for peace all over the world and specifically called for the violence directed at women to stop, saying that, quote, "To hurt a woman is an insult to God who took his humanity from a woman." The Pope reflected on the Virgin Mary as Mary the Mother and called on the courage of mothers to find strength during difficult times. Back in the Big Apple, the Diocese of Brooklyn's Ecuadorian community kicked off the new year, celebrating the solemnity of the Blessed Mary. Dressed in traditional clothing, parishioners at Our Lady of Sorrows in Corona, Queens, danced in honor of the Virgin of the Cloud, a Marian devotion tracing back 300 years to Ecuador. It comes as the parish held its annual Three Kings toy drive, and this year they were able to raise $20,000 and give out roughly 800 toys to children in need. Wow. There's a lot more news headed your way. Wildfires, winter storms, and tornadoes. Natural disasters are upending lives all over the country. The wildfires in Colorado have one family desperate to find their 91-year-old grandmother. And then how one young woman is training guide dogs to fulfill a lifelong dream inspired by her family. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Tonight on Currents News, starting 2022 off with a wave of damage. Residents in Kentucky blindsided by a tornado.
No warnings whatsoever. There was only flash flood warnings what we got.
This as Colorado faces fire, then snow. Flames burning thousands of acres of land only to be pounded by a snowstorm. Continuing coverage of these New Year natural disasters starts now. The National Weather Service has now confirmed 8 tornadoes ripped through Kentucky on New Year's Day. The strongest hit in Hopkinsville, where winds as high as 115 miles per hour did significant damage to the area. Justin McFarland talks with residents as they survey the damage.
The twisted metal being dragged down the street in Hopkinsville is what's left of the Marathon gas station belonging to Hema Patel.
No warnings whatsoever. There was only flash flood warnings what we got.
It wasn't a flash flood that took down her business. It was strong, high winds that sent gas pumps flying.
My gas pump, everything blew away. Inside, the roof caved in, whole water line, everything's busted. It's really a disaster behind the register right now.
And she's not alone. Some yards are missing trees. The Southern States Co-op is missing a wall. Unfortunately, sites like this are becoming too familiar for residents like Brooke Luckingham.
I think I'm getting too accustomed to natural disasters.
Luckingham says she's one of the many who who went to volunteer to clean up from other storms in the area, like the ones that hit Waverly and Mayfield. But now it's her hometown that needs the assistance.
It's heartbreaking, especially in this community here. It's a poor community, and I just hate seeing this here.
No one wants to see it here or anywhere else, but the cleanup and comeback for storm victims like Patel is already happening.
Just keep us in your prayers and see what we can do.
That was Justin McFarland reporting. If you'd like to help the people of Kentucky, the Diocese of Owensboro there is accepting donations. Just go to owensborodiocese.org/give and click on Tornado Relief Catholic Charities for the designation of your donation. In Colorado, search and rescue operations are now underway for 2 people still missing after a wind-fueled grass fire plowed through 10 square miles of thickly populated suburbs north of Denver. The cleanup now made more complicated by a snowstorm that blanketed the region. Deputies reporting cadaver dogs are searching through the still hot rubble that's buried under 8 inches of snow. More than 1,000 homes and businesses were destroyed or damaged during the wildfire.
I know that this is going to be a long road to recovery, but know that the federal family, we are going to be with you 100% all the way through this to help you as you go through this recovery process.
Officials say 1 previously missing person has been found alive and well. The Boulder County Sheriff says he's still hopeful the remaining 2 missing people will also be found alive. Family and friends of the people missing are continuing that prayer. While authorities have not publicly identified those who are missing, one family is seeking any information on a 91-year-old grandma who hasn't been seen since the wildfire. Nelson Garcia reports.
The look of the night may be different, but the question remains the same.
But it's difficult not knowing. Much rather know.
Hutch Armstrong says he and his family reported that 91-year-old Grandma Nadine Turnbull was missing after his cousin could not get her out of their home in Old Town Superior during the fire.
They tried to go out the front door with the neighbor. It was engulfed. Checked the back door. It was engulfed.
Armstrong says their cousin tried to go back for Nadine, but firefighters pulled her away.
She says 2 times. She was right behind me.
With fire bearing down, Armstrong says they had to leave, and the family feared the worst about Grandma Turnbull.
Just a nice person, genuine person, Christian lady. In fact, my wife went over there the day after Christmas and was talking to her and said she's doing good. She said, I'm going to live to be 100.
Nadine moved to Old Town Superior with her husband in 1965. Armstrong said they started the grieving process.
Just loving, caring, always worried about how everybody else is doing.
Then, Armstrong said they heard this from Boulder County Sheriff Joe Pelley.
Good news. We still have no reports of casualties or fatalities. The 1 missing person we had last night has been accounted for and is well.
And then you hear that, and there's no deaths, reported or missing. That's the only one they said, 1 woman reported missing. It just doesn't make sense.
Armstrong said the hardest part is just not knowing.
I do think we have the right to know if there's such a woman who was reported missing and safe, why can I get the information if it's her or it's not? Or
Armstrong says authorities won't give his family any information, and they just want to know what happened to Grandma Turnbull.
After hearing the news, we're a little bit, just want to know.
Different day, same question.
That was Nelson Garcia reporting. Edna's family say so far no evidence has been found of the 91-year-old on the property. They've also been calling hospitals in hopes they can find her there. Still to come on Currents News, a woman is taking a once-in-a-lifetime journey, traveling hundreds of miles with nothing more than a 13-pound backpack, a map, and the grace of God. Plus, the inspirational story of a woman who trains guide dogs because she saw just how much a pup helped her blind father. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. It's a journey of self-discovery spanning 12 countries. One woman leaving behind her life in Spain and setting out on a hike to the Holy Land. As Claudia Torres reports, the first step was the hardest.
3,700 miles and 12 countries await Carlota Valenzuela. This woman left behind the routine and noise of her daily life in Spain and set out to walk from Finisterre to Jerusalem in only 1 year. She began her walking pilgrimage on January 2nd, 2022, carrying no more than a 13-pound pack and a map.
Ya estoy en camino, primer día de ruta.
I am already on my way, on the first day. The truth is that this morning I felt less prepared than ever, but I imagine that that's the way to start, with humility and knowing that I can't do it alone, that I need God's grace. For Carlota Valenzuela, this pilgrimage is also symbolic, going from a place that symbolizes the end, Finisterre, to the origin of everything, Jerusalem.
Jerusalén representa para mí el inicio.
Jerusalem for me represents the beginning of everything, and going there is also an interior journey. I'm making a pilgrimage both externally and internally. Carlota is sharing her progress on social media, and she's asking her followers for help finding lodging along the way. Her idea is to reach Italy in June and Israel in December. That way she'll connect 3 important pilgrimage destinations: Santiago, Rome, and Jerusalem.
Voy a peregrinar a pie para poder ir
I'm doing a walking pilgrimage so that I can go step by step, so that I can start from smallness, from humility. It isn't a physical challenge. I want to enjoy the journey and leave room for things to happen. It's a journey full of uncertainty for Carlota Valenzuela, and an adventure of self-discovery, made possible by her courage to take the first step.
That was Claudia Torres reporting. Carlota already has 1,400 people following her year-long journey on Instagram. Now to another inspiring story of how a young woman's dream was fostered early on, inspired by her dad. Wendy Lane has the story of how a passion for puppies led to training guide dogs to help others.
This is the current puppy that I'm raising.
Ever since Megan Watson was a little girl, all she's wanted to do is raise guide dog puppies.
I had put together a presentation of how I wanted to become a puppy raiser.
Her passion started when her father, who is blind, received his first guide dog from Southeastern Guide Dogs in Manatee County, and she saw how much it helped him.
Whenever he was using a guide dog, he can do whatever he wanted to do. He could go for a walk by himself. He could go to the grocery store.
That passion drove Megan to turn her dream into a reality. Now she's on her 5th puppy in training for Southeastern Guide Dogs. She raises each puppy for about a year, teaching them a foundation of guide dog skills before giving them back, something that she says is not easy to do.
It is not a great feeling giving them up. It is definitely hard. It's heartbreaking. You put your time, energy, effort, soul, love into these dogs for a year to 16 months of your life. You become attached to them.
But Megan says knowing that the puppy is going on to do great things is such a reward.
Seeing how much they help and seeing them graduate as a guide dog is absolutely incredible.
Incredible to see them become a best friend and give someone life-changing independence. Someone like her father. Southeastern Guide Dogs says they're always looking for puppy raiser volunteers, a job that Megan says is so worth it.
The dog really does choose what path they take. And seeing that end result of whatever path they choose is always incredible.
So cute. That was Wendy Lane reporting. There are several organizations across the country that specialize in training guide dogs. If you want to help out, you can go to guidedogsofamerica.org for more information. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.